This is a full focus planner, and I'm going to be using it to plan my week this week. Actually, I've been using it to plan my week for the entire first quarter of 2024. And as I'm filming this video, that quarter is wrapping up. Probably by the time that this gets edited and published onto my channel, we will be in the second quarter of 2024. But I wanted to go ahead and film this process, kind of talk about what I like about this planner, what I don't like about this planner, and how I'm using it in my life to get things done while still trying to practice self-compassion and grace and not get so caught up in my to-do list. Because even though I really strongly believe that a lot of the ways that we think about productivity and productivity systems are broken, the thing is that if we want to get things done, we do have to have some sort of system that we're using. And so I wanted to go ahead and walk through the system that I am using right now in case that is helpful to you. Obviously, it comes with the caveat that this is what's working for me right now. It may not be what's working for me next month. It may not be what's working for me in a year. And that's okay. You are free to take the parts that are helpful to you and leave the rest. So let's get started. Wow, I am really nervous. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I think I'm just like, what if this is not cool enough? I have I've got a lot going on in my noggin right now, but that's okay. We're gonna work on it. My little Nelly girl's here, and we'll do what we can. So I know that on this channel I talk a ton about how we can get things done while still being kind to ourselves. And so for today, I thought that I would actually do a walkthrough of how I'm planning my weeks these days. Now this method changes from time to time. I think that's pretty natural. Right now I am using a full focus planner from the Full Focus company. I really like these planners. I've used them before. However, I do feel like at this point in my life, they're a little bit more than I need. And so I'm not necessarily always willing to pay to have one. This one I happened to get used, which was a great find. But in the front here, they have these goal details. They have these daily rituals. I think somewhere, there's rolling quarters. This is designed so that you can roll tasks over from one quarter to another if you always use theirs. There's these monthly calendars that I did not even bother to fill out because I have a wall calendar. I think there's even a place to put your ideal week. Yep, right here. So there's all these really good planning things. However, I am still sort of figuring all of this out. I feel like this is very much targeted toward if you are, in business, specifically in the corporate world. This is a really good planner. It is sort of targeted for your needs. Now, you can use it for other things. You don't have to be in the corporate world to use it. But when I had a full-time corporate job, I found this planner to be indispensable, super, super, super helpful. But as I have started working for myself, doing freelancing, my schedules may be a little bit more flexible and I don't have to cram as many things into a day. Frankly, I just don't need this much space. So all of that to say, I'm planning on doing these videos semi-regularly for my weekly planning. And so when you see these methods change that I'm using, it's partially because I'm experimenting, but it's also partially because I feel like every system has its strengths and weaknesses. Now for this first year of 2024, I wanted to be really locked in, dialed in. So when I found this used at a bookstore, I decided, okay, for this first quarter of 2024, I am going to use it. And I've been pretty happy with that decision. I'm also not feeling super sad that the first quarter is coming to an end. I think I'm going to go ahead and go back to some of the other systems that I used, maybe try a new one. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do yet, but I will definitely be keeping you updated. For this week, let's start with how I'm planning my week using the Full Focus system. So in the Full Focus planner, your week starts with something called the weekly preview. I really like this first step, which is called my biggest wins. It really causes you to reflect on the week that you've had and consider the big wins, the small wins that really made your week worthwhile. So I think this reflection is actually super helpful to have as part of your planning system or your journaling system or whatever, because it really helps you feel like you are noticing the progress that you're making. toward a goal, right? Because a lot of times we have our to-do lists, we start the week out with like these lofty ideals and dreams, and we don't reach all of them. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times that can make me feel like I failed, like nothing I did was worth anything because I didn't do all of it. And I'm definitely trying to get over that all or nothing thinking. I'm trying to make sure that like progress is better to me than perfection, but I'm not always there, especially when I'm really frustrated with my lack of ability to just power through and get things done. And so step one here really helps you focus on, okay, what did actually go right last week? And how can I just take a moment right now to celebrate that if I haven't already? So I'm going to go ahead and flip through the previous week and kind of see what those things were. Okay, I have my 4 wins from the week before. And there's really no rules on these as far as like, at least not in the way that I do them. I will talk about personal things that really meant a lot to me, professional things. This is like my entire life is in this planner. And sometimes, you know, maybe my professional life isn't going as well as I would hope, but there's something in my personal life that offset it. And so I think that celebrating any kind of win, big win, small win, that's good. A lot of times I'll also celebrate mental health wins. Like, for example, this past week, there were some tough things that happened, and I was able to process through them in the moment and then really decompress by watching the Eras Tour movie on Disney+. I'm really happy that that happened, and I'm also really proud of myself for taking the time to take care of myself in that way, because it made the rest of my week and weekend so much better. Okay, step 2 is called the after action review. So you have to refer to your last weekly big 3, which the big 3 is what they call basically your 3 goals for the week that you really, really want to get done no matter what. So mine might be a bit of a mess because I sort of planned my week last week and then switched the plan over completely. So I guess let's look and see what it says. I didn't even write my weekly big 3 last week, so that's not a good example. So what were they? I think they were probably edit, learn, and then freelance. Okay, so typically, because I run a freelance writing business where I write for clients as well as running this channel, I have one goal for this channel, one goal for that business, and then one goal for something else that's in my life that week. So the first I'll just say freelance projects on time or early. It's typically what it is because I have another place that I keep track. So that was good. Second would be typically my goal for this channel would be to film 2 new videos because I release 2 new videos each week and edit, but I was a little bit ahead of schedule. So I actually took last week and did a lot of like really deep research. And so my goal was really to make good progress on that. So I don't know how I would phrase that in more specific terms though. So I can say like, yeah, like this is how much I got done of that, because making good progress is something that you can always do more of, right? So I'll just say researching for worthy hours. Okay, and then I had a specific amount of research that I wanted to get done. I feel like I got about 60% of that done, but that was a pretty lofty goal. So 60% is good. And then editing. This is for a passion project that my husband has. So I actually was able to edit a couple of those videos for him. So that was a fun, like personal thing to do. So what worked? Switching up my routine to focus on research really invigorated me. So I'll put a little smiley face there. So the after action review, step 2, you review your top 3 goals for the last week. You give yourself a percentage complete, so kind of like a grade. This week I had 2 100s and a 60. It varies wildly for me. Some weeks I have all 100s. That usually means that I set super realistic goals. A lot of times I'll have like a few 70s. When I worked full time, I had a lot of like 50s, just because things would come up and I wouldn't make the amount of progress on my big goals that I wanted to make. So just depending on your situation and kind of your season of life, that's going to be different if you do this. And then they have you do some additional reflection time. It says what worked, what didn't. And then based on that, what will you keep, improve, start, or stop doing? So the things that I wrote down were switching up my routine to focus on research really invigorated me because I love bringing you like well-informed content. I said taking time to decompress Friday night made it easier to do chores on Saturday. That's not really related to my big three, but I did want to note that down because I think that's really interesting. And then I said comparing myself to others was discouraging and slowed me down. That was just something that sort of came up in my own heart and mind during the research. And so I wanted to mark that down. So for what I'll keep, improve, start, or stop doing, I feel like I'm probably just not going to fill this out because I don't know. I mean, I can't switch up my routine every week because my routine is in place for a reason. Like I have to film videos most weeks in order to keep this channel going. And the other two are about trying to be intentional about how I am managing my energy and my emotions so that I honor those things, but I'm also able to get the things done that I want to get done. And that's something that I'm always trying to do. And so these are a couple of things that I was noticing this week, but neither of them are particularly new. So we're just going to skip the lessons learned part. This is part of what I don't love about this planner is that while I love the space for reflection, I do feel like sometimes it gets a little bit repetitive. And sometimes I just know what I need to do. I don't need to necessarily have a like groundbreaking realization every single week, even though there's space for that. And so it's good to take a second to check it, but I don't necessarily use all of these things. The next step is called the list sweep. You're supposed to process action items from the previous week and consider your next steps and assign them to kind of the task manager here. I go ahead and just sort of do that with the weekly overview, which is step 4. So we're just going to go ahead and skip all of this. As I'm adding to my weekly overview, you're listing important events, deadlines, and tasks in the coming week. I'm not going to use the weekly view on the next page, but it does look like this if you want to use it. When I've used their weekly view, I find it to be a little bit redundant because normally I like having a place where I list all of my like personal and professional lists. This is actually part of my normal week planning system. But if I list them here on their weekly overview page, then I also have to list them on the actual like pages themselves for the days. Sorry, I'm getting like a frog in my throat. And to me, that's just like, it's too much to list it 3 places. I think that if you are like more of a calendar oriented person, and you're like, okay, like I'm going to start with my appointments and then my routines and then like everything I want to do on each day, you could kind of fill it in here and then transfer each day so that it looked nice and pretty. But for me, I like to have the list here and then I just sort of think about where everything needs to fit. So as you can see, I also throughout the previous weeks will sometimes, when I know I'm not going to get to something that week, I'll just sort of add it to this list. I only have one thing on this list right now, but it says catch up on commonplace books, which I'm really excited to do that. I'm sort of getting into commonplacing right now as a way to keep track of all of the things that I'm learning. I just finished this book by Dr. Anita Phillips. It's called The Garden Within, and it's about your emotions and your body and sort of the relationship between them. And it was a really amazing book, actually pretty quick read in terms of like how readable it was, but it also, there was a lot of like inner work that I had to do while I was reading this. So it took me a while. So I want to go ahead and take some time and transfer all of my notes from this book into a notebook so that I can find them a little bit more easily later. So I'm very excited to do that. I'll have to do that sometime this week. My husband and I are also in the middle of a digital detox. And so I think that I'm actually probably going to have some time for that in the evenings, which is exciting. Let's see. I'm just checking things that have happened this past week. So I'm not actually seeing anything that I really need to do. The only things that weren't super checked off or habits that I'm trying to form. So, okay, let's talk about this. Something I like about this is that for step 4, they divide it up into personal and professional areas. And I find that distinction very helpful, especially because I work from home. And so I feel like when you work from home, the tendency for the personal to sort of bleed into the professional happens very readily. But it can also happen like no matter who you are, right? If you bring your work laptop home, sometimes those things can bleed together. So I like that they keep them separate and there's a way for me to plan both. Okay, so let me think about like what my task list looks like this week. I usually tend to start with scheduled things. So if there's anything like appointments or plans that we have either personally or professionally, I try to write those down first. So a good example would be like last week I had a doctor's appointment. And so I made sure that I wrote that down on my personal thing, especially because it was going to be during the middle of the workday. So, okay. Okay, and then moving on to my professional life. Okay, this week actually looks like it's going to be pretty relaxed. We have some commitments in the evenings and on the weekend. Pretty much for work, I'm just doing my usual thing. I am adding some research in this week, which is going to take a big chunk of time. So I only have like 5 things listed under my professional goals for the week. So that seems pretty doable considering that I think each of these tasks is going to take quite a bit of focus and attention. The next thing to do is to set my weekly big 3, which these are my top priorities for the week. And for these, I usually keep them to professional goals. I find that most of my personal things happen or they're just not as important to me. Occasionally, there are personal things that make it onto this weekly big 3, but I usually keep them focused for work goals because work is where I spend the majority of my time. So I'm going to go ahead and set those. Let's see, probably editing 2 videos for my husband's passion project that he's launching this next week. I feel like that's probably important to have that done. Then scheduling 2 new videos. Oh, I did not spell videos correctly. Okay, scheduling 2 new videos for this channel, and then researching for this channel. My freelance writing business, I sometimes will have heavier weeks for that. This week, unless I get like a surprise, I am really far ahead of schedule on all my projects. So I'm just sort of waiting for people to get back to me on that. So that will not be a big 3 this week, although it normally is. Okay, and then this last step is a self-care planner. And I have actually done a little bit of a video about this already. I will link to it in the cards. But basically, it just has these 5 categories where you plan how you're going to take care of yourself. The first one is sleep. Next one is eat, move, connect, relax. Some weeks, this is a very helpful tool for me. I will say, when I made that first video, I was like super excited about it. It was like kind of a super new thing to me. I didn't remember using it before. Now that I have started using it every week, the revelations are less grand. So it may just be that I'm not using this planner correctly, but I do feel like the amount of reflection that's required for me to plan is super helpful right at the beginning, especially when I haven't done it for a while. But then sort of as you near the end of the book, you near the end of the quarter, it's like, okay, like I'm kind of doing the same thing that I was trying to do last week. So like, for example, with sleep goals, my goal is always to get up with my husband. Actually my sleep goal is to get enough sleep, but not like sleep in past a good time to get up and get my work done. So eating, follow the meal plan. We are trying a meal subscription service this week, and so eating will be very easy. I'll just follow that plan. But normally my plan for the week is to eat as much veggies and protein as I can and just kind of doing that. So for movement, we are trying to create a habit of jogging after work. And then I also like to do some strength training and yoga training throughout the week. So this is the same thing I write every week, but I write it down anyway. Connection, I feel like this week is already sort of planned out. We're going to go see friends this weekend. We have a few outings throughout the week to see friends. I could maybe invite some people over for dinner, but there's really only 2 evenings this week that would work. So I'll probably just try to do it another week. So I think connection, we're good on that. And then relaxing. This is probably something that I should think about a little bit this week, because normally I tend to relax in front of the TV. I'm playing a video game or watching a show or some YouTube with my husband. And we are doing a digital detox this week. I might have mentioned that already. We're actually doing it for a month. And so I need to have a plan of what I'm going to do when I want to relax, because I can't just veg out. So I think some of those things might be read. I have an idea for a board game, sort of. It's more just like the design of a board game and how I want it to look. So I was thinking about working on designing that a little bit. I could catch up on my commonplace books during my relaxing time, play music. I did sort of get an itch to get the guitar out yesterday, and then maybe do some knitting. I do have a project that I'm working on, and it's been pretty fun. So, okay, there we go. Okay, so Monday, that is today. So my first task on Monday is always to plan my week. Some people like to plan their weeks on Sunday night. I like to plan my week on Monday. I just feel like, you know what, if I let the work week bleed into Sunday, it will bleed into my night, and it will usually affect how I sleep. So I just plan it Monday morning, get it done. That does usually mean I have a slower start on Monday, but I don't necessarily mind that. Okay, so plan week, film plan with me video. Hey, you're watching that right now. And outline. Okay. I'm not sure that I do want to do this for dinner. I had written that down earlier, but I'm not sure that I do want to do it. So these are my big 3. So just like each week has a big 3 for the week, each day in the Full Focus Planner also has a big 3. And so I go through and I fill those out first. Those are usually like my most important work projects. Occasionally there will also be like life-related things in there. So for example, on Wednesdays, I usually go to therapy. That's usually one of my big 3 for the day, just because it does take a lot of mental and emotional energy some weeks. And I want to make sure that I honor that and give it its proper place. So yeah, I'll actually just go ahead and write that on Wednesday right now. Okay, cool. And then I just keep going back to this weekly overview in step 4 and just putting tasks there. So let's see, I'm going to say for Tuesday, film one or the hour video. So then that'll be done by then. And then I do go through, and on this weekly overview, I check off everything that I have transferred to the daily pages. That doesn't mean that it's done. It just means that it's planned, so that I know everything has a place. And then if during the week I decide that, oh, hey, like I put this on Tuesday and I should not have put this on Tuesday, I don't have time today to do it, I can then transfer it to another day later in the week or move things around on the daily pages. So I do try to not have to refer to this step 4 list throughout the week. I try to keep it all on the daily pages because that's a lot easier for me to wrap my brain around one day at a time. But while I'm planning, I'll just go ahead and check off the things that I have already planned. Okay. And then that is basically the rest of my ritual. I'm just flipping back and forth with these pages and assigning things as I go. So for example, we've got Wednesday, go to therapy. And I am being a little bit specific about when I'm checking my email for my freelancing business. And that's mostly because when I'm in the middle of a project, I check my email every single day, make sure there are no updates from clients and things like that. When I'm sort of waiting to hear back from people, it can be a little bit tedious. And so I'm making sure that I just put that there. So I check it once a day and then I am good. Okay. So, and I'm also going through and I'm pretty much emphasizing appointments and how I want to structure my work schedule this week. Basically, once I have those things in place, then I try to go through and fit in my other personal things that I would like to get done. There are a lot of things that I would like to do every single week. You know, I would love if I had a life where I just like made art for an entire day once per week, but that doesn't necessarily happen every week. And that's because I have other goals that are more important to me right now that I'm chasing after. And so I do find it helpful to go ahead and like schedule my main work tasks and appointments. And then I go, okay, here are the things I would like to get done. Which of these like fun things do I most want to do? And then I will schedule them on the days where I have the most time. So for this week, it's actually looking like, if everything goes to plan, which it often doesn't, Thursday and Friday are going to be pretty leisurely days for me. So I may have the opportunity to do a few more fun things this week, which is pretty nice. I think I'm going to leave a few blank spots here on Thursday, just in case I need to move things. Because I do feel like Tuesday and Wednesday could be a little ambitious depending on how much time each of these projects take. So I'm just going to go ahead and say YouTube research, and then I'm going to try to finish it. I don't think I should try to finish it Thursday because that may be the first day I can do it. But then Friday I can try to finish. Okay, cool. So now this is done. I've done the research. And then I'll probably also check my inbox again on Friday. Check. Okay, that looks good. So now all really I have left to schedule for my week that I wrote down are my personal tasks. I want to like the cleaning that I need to get done this week, and then some of the self-care tasks and like other personal things like the commonplacing I mentioned, reading, playing Frosthaven with my husband. I think some of those things will happen organically throughout the week, but I do want to sort of slot them in so that I have a time that I can do them. Okay, so like for example, Wednesday night, I think that would be a great night to play a game with my husband. Then today I would love to do some of the cleaning today that didn't get done over the weekend. I actually feel like I might have time for that, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. Make soup. Mop floors. Okay, cool. Here we are. While I'm going through this process, I'll often remember other things that I want to do that week, and I don't really care if I add them in just on the daily pages. As long as they get to the daily pages, that's where I live every day of my life, and so that's fine. And then the last thing here is to just go through the self-care planner and make sure that I schedule those things in as well. I think most of these I've already scheduled in. Except for the commonplacing. I somehow forgot that. And probably the things that I'm most concerned about are that, and then this strength training and yoga here. So I'll go ahead and schedule those things in as well. A lot of times after therapy, I like to do yoga and possibly journaling as well. So I'll go ahead and put those on Wednesday just because that's sort of a natural flow. I think on Tuesday, because I have such a crazy busy day, I'm going to put the strength training there because that is definitely a good pick-me-up in the middle of the day when I need just like a 10-minute break. And then the Commonplace book, I think I'm actually going to put that down for Thursday as well. I'm going to cross out designing this game and going to say commonplacing. Okay, so I did that. And then I just got to find another place for the strength training and yoga. And I think I'll probably do that Saturday morning. We typically take weekends off from our jogging, and so that's kind of a nice sort of recovery day for me. I think that's it. I have my days planned out, and I have spaces where I can move things around, particularly on Thursday of this week. And I'm pretty proud of the way that turned out. We'll see how this week goes, how it flows. But hopefully you can sort of see the intentionality here where I try to balance my days so that it's a realistic but still challenging day. And then I also try to provide space where I can give myself grace and move things around when they need to be moved around. And I hope that you were able to pick some things up here that inspired you. See you in the next video. Bye.